This session will teach you how to do the single crochet US, which is double crochet UK. This stitch is the next stitch up from the chain stitch, and this is the stitch you want to learn if you are thinking about doing toys or amigurumi. This is the main stitch for doing toys. So the first thing we need to do is to put our yarn on our hook and do some chain stitches. The previous tutorial will show you how to do that, but we'll go through it very quickly with this one. So to do a slip knot onto our hook, short piece of yarn in left hand, long piece of yarn in right hand in front of left hand, grab it with your left hand to form a circle, drop that long piece of yarn behind your circle. Take your hook, grab that long piece of yarn and just pull it to the front to get your slip knot, making that slip knot smaller as you go. So then we're going to chain 11 stitches. So our chain stitch is yarn over and pull it through. So that's 1, yarn over and pull it through. 2, yarn over and pull it through. Yarn over and pull it through. Yarn over your hook and pull it through. And we're going to keep doing that until we've got to our 11 chain stitches. So yarn over and just pull that one through. So you end up with 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So one more chain stitch, yarn over and pull through. Now when you're working in the row and you start to look at patterns, at the end of each row, the pattern will ask you to do a turning chain, or sometimes it's called just do one extra chain. And that extra chain or that turning chain gives you the height of your row before you go back along that row again. So we've done 10 chain stitches and we've done one extra one. So we've got 11 chains on our hook. So that 11th chain is our turning chain. So we're now going to do our US single crochet, which is a UK double crochet. So we're going to ignore the stitch that's on your hook. That's not a stitch, that's just a working stitch. The first chain nearest to your hook, so this very first chain here, we're going to ignore that one as well because that's our turning chain. So we're going to work into the second chain nearest to our hook. So this second chain along. So what we're going to do for this stitch is we're going to push our hook straight through that chain. So push it through from the front to the back. We're going to put our yarn over the end of our hook. We're going to pull back just this one stitch back over the end of our hook. So just pull off that one stitch and now you'll find that you've got 2 stitches on your hook. And then we're going to put our yarn over again and then pull back through both of those together. So you're back to one piece of yarn on your hook, and that is the stitch. So that is the single crochet US, double crochet UK. And what you'll find is where you've just worked, you've got this big hole here. So that's where you've just worked. So don't think that that's where you're going next. This big hole here you can see, you're going in the next chain along from that big hole. So there's the big hole that I've just been going into, and my next chain is here. So we're going to do exactly the same. So we're going to push our hook in from the front to the back. So push your hook away from you, yarn over, pull back through one stitch. See, then you've got 2 on there. Yarn over again and then pull through both of them together, making sure they both come off. Again, you'll see that I've created now a sort of a big hole here. So I'm going in the next chain along from there. So hook in from the front to the back, yarn over, pull back through 1, yarn over again, pull back through 2. And we're going to repeat that all the way down our row of chain stitches until we get back to our knot. So hook into your chain, yarn over, pull back through 1, yarn over again, pull back through 2. Hook in, yarn over, pull back through 1, yarn over again, pull back through 2. All the way to the end of that row. This is the worst bit. Going into the chain stitches is always the worst bit because you can't really see them as clearly as you want to. So once you've done this first row, it does get much easier. So I've got back to my knot here, and you can see I've now got a row of stitches. So if I turn my work so it faces up, you can see what these are called are as V stitches. So can you see them here? So these are the V stitches. So now it's really easy to see where you're going to go. So I should have 10 of these V's because we did 10 chains and then we did 1 extra chain, which was our turning chain, which we ignored. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got 10 stitches. So we've got to the end of our work, and at the end of each row, as I've said before, we do a turn-in chain. So we just do 1 chain stitch. So yarn over and just pull that through. And you'll see that just gives you a bit of height so you can come back along. So now we can see our V stitches. It's going to be easier for us to work our hook into them. So as before, we ignore this one. That's just your working stitch, and we're going to ignore this first one here because that's the turning chain that we've just done. So we're going to put our hook into the second chain along, which is our first proper stitch, and you can see that it's the first one that's above our work. So we want to make sure that our whole hook goes under the V. So we're going to push it through from the front of the hook all the way through to the back, so you've got that whole V on your hook. So don't just pick up one strand of that V, make sure you pick up both strands of that V. And then we're going to do exactly the same as before. We're going to put our yarn over, we're going to pull it back through that V stitch, so that V stitch just counts as 1 stitch. Yarn over again and pull back through 2. So you'll see that you've created now this sort of large gap. So we're going into the next V along, so this V here. So we're going to push our hook from the front of that V all the way through to the very back of it. So you've got both strands on your hook. Yarn over, pull back through that V, yarn over, pull back through 2. So you're just going to repeat that all the way down until you get back to the end of your stitches. So make sure when you're picking up that V, that you pick up both strands, yarn over, pull back through that V, yarn over and pull through 2. What can sometimes happen is that you just pick up the front strand of that V, so you only have 1 strand on your hook there. What you want to make sure is that you pick up the front and the back, so you're pushing through, so you've got a double strands on there. Yarn over, pull it back through that V, yarn over, pull through 2. All the way to the end. And then we should still have 10 stitches on our work. So our work is looking a little bit bigger, and we should have 10 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So again, we've got to the end of our row. We're going to do our turning chain, so yarn over and pull it through. We're going to turn our work. We're going to ignore that turning chain, and we're going to go into this first proper V stitch here. So hook in, yarn over, pull back through the V, yarn over and pull through 2. So I said this is the US single crochet, which is the UK double crochet. So this is one of the smallest stitches, and this is the stitch that tends to be used if you're making toys or characters, because there's no gaps in the stitch. So hook in, yarn over, pull back through 1, yarn over again and pull back through 2. So this is our 3rd row. We're going to do 5 rows. So we've got to the end. We're going to do our turning chain, so yarn over and pull through. We're going to turn our work, and then we're going to go into that first proper stitch. So hook in, yarn over, pull it back through, yarn over and pull through 2. So just making sure you're picking up that whole V on your work. So when you're pushing your hook through, make sure it's picking up the first strand of that V and the second strand of that V. Yarn over, pull through. If you only pick up one strand, then you'll end up with some lines going across your work where that second strand is sitting. So make sure when you're picking up that V, you've got both of those strands of it on top of your hook. So this is row 4. We're going to do our turning chain, turn our work, and then we're going to do row 5. So keeping to 10 stitches. Across your work. Until you get to the very end. So this is 5 rows of single crochet US, which is double crochet UK. So to fasten off your work, all you will do is snip off the piece of yarn and then make sure you thread the long piece of yarn through your loop before you pull it, and then that will secure it nice and tightly for you.